7 inches tall. I want to play professional basketball. What would he have said to the former Atlanta Hawks star Spud Webb? Maybe he would have warned him about being traded to the Sacramento Kings. I don't know. But the point is, these people succeeded. And why?
Ladies and gentlemen, you have to try something new. I can assure you, if you continue to do what you're currently doing, you'll continue to get what you're currently getting. If you want something different, you've got to try something new.
Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Chairman, I have become a radical baby boomer. When I crossed over the 50 line last year, I looked around for something that was good about being 50.
Welcome to the Outside the Box. Good day to all wonderful attendees present here. We will be conducting today's event as per the published agenda. Please note, during the event, all mics will stay muted except for the person speaking. Same will be with the video of all attendees. In a while, I request all the attendees to please turn off your videos. Questions from the audience shall be accepted by chat only. The questions may be addressed to this account where you can see the name as District 79, Saudi Arabia. All questions should be in this format: name, that is your name, address to which speaker, and the question. We request you to be specific with the question and avoid lengthy comments. You may send out questions as the speakers speak. You do not need to wait until the end. Questions shall be sent to the host as it is received. After this point, chat will be limited to host only, so we will receive your questions well. There will be a group photo session at the end, so please be prepared to open your cameras when asked upon. Now it is the time to get into the action. To help us with keeping up with time, who will note down and indicate time for each speaker, we have with us an expert leader, the District 79 Training Manager, DTM Narasimha Rao Rampalli. Let's give him a big round of applause. To take the event forward, let me now introduce our event chairman for today. He is a public speaker and a writer with over 1.3 million content views and a top writer in Quora.com. He is a passionate researcher on biblical history and timeline of Messiahs. He is among the few who can read the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Let's welcome the Outside the Box event chair, Toastmaster Rafiq Ahmed.
All right, thank you so much to you, Toastmaster Muhammad Nooman, for that excellent introduction. And one thing I'm sure all of our attendees are thinking right now. They're thinking, okay, I did not hear him say the word DTM or any leadership titles in front of the event chair's name. Well, if he does not have those, then how is he part of this big event? So that brings me to actually to introduce you all to the day when this entire event was conceptualized. It happened a couple of weeks ago and was just a casual conversation between myself and a friend of mine, which is Toastmaster Sarah Khan. And we were discussing about an event, and Toastmaster Sarah goes, she says, well, you know what, if it was me, I would bring Dave Ross, Daneil, LaMon, and Willie Jones. I said, wow, okay, do you know them? She said, yes. I said, all right, then just bring them. She said, wait a second. Well, I can even bring our leaders from Toastmasters International. I can bring Deepak Menon too. I said, wow, okay, let's do it. She said, wait, hold on a second. You know what? I can bring Dan Rex too. Now I was just asking myself, now this lady knows everyone. So I was thinking the next minute, if I don't stop her, she's going to say, you know what? I'm going to bring Donald Trump too. So I stopped her right there and I said, let's do this event. She said, okay, so where do we do it? Shall we do it in District 79 in your district? I said, well, you know what? We can do that, but I do not know the district director. I have not met him. I haven't known him personally. She said, you know what? I know him too. So she knew everyone. So I had very little to do rather than just asking her, what do I do then next? She said, well, you know what? You be the event chair. You know, this is your opportunity to learn the leadership track by becoming the event chair and use that as your credit for one of your projects. I said, wow, that's a great opportunity. I'm not a DTM. I'm not having any leadership roles, but I get to head an event, and that too with 3 world champions, 2 top-class leaders from Toastmasters International, and the one and only Toastmaster Sarah Khan. So I grabbed that opportunity, and here we are 3 weeks from that date to now, we have made this event possible. And let me also tell you this, any big event for that matter needs a platform at which you can conduct this. And I was hoping that it may have a lot of hurdles. But the moment I was introduced to our district director by Toastmaster Sarah Khan, Toastmaster Samer said, as long as it is in the interest of the members, the floor is yours. So with those motivational words, we took the challenge and we said to ourselves, well, let's make this dream a reality and probably give to the Toastmasters members who stand right on top what they deserve, which is absolutely the best when it comes to the learning experience in Toastmasters International. So welcome you all to Outside the Box, where we are going to attempt to reach you outside Toastmasters in applying the skills that you learn inside Toastmasters. And what better way to learn those skills than to hear from the wealth of wisdom that our speakers bring to us here today. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm not going to keep talking and bragging about the event. I'm going to let you feel it. I'm going to let you hear it, and I'm going to let you take home those treasures of wisdom. And to do that, I'm going to give this event in the hands of one very responsible person for today, which is our Toastmaster, who will be heading the event as the MC. Now, let me tell you a little about our MC today. She is a motivational speaker, a trainer, facilitator, a writer, a passionate Toastmaster. Well, she is even a champion in District 79. And she enjoys writing articles. She enjoys reviewing content for her friends and editing them. A business analyst by profession. And she enjoys presenting at business events and top events like these, where she feels that she can apply her speaking skills and put them to the use. So we made sure that we bring you the best. So here is our MC for today to head this show outside the box, Toastmaster Farheen Sait.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Rafiq, for that wonderful introduction. Greetings, everybody from across the globe who's attending this amazing event and helping us help you learn about Toastmasters outside the box. When people were asked, why did you join Toastmasters? The most common answer was, to be a more confident speaker, to become a better leader. Undoubtedly. Toastmasters builds the skills that helps individuals become more confident public speakers, stronger leaders in every area of their lives. Going through the structured program of education, people learn and grow, and with a lot of dedication and effort, they reach the highest award, becoming distinguished Toastmasters. Now, some even take the plunge and shine on to become world champions of public speaking. But wait a minute, what happens after that? Is it the end of the learning process? No more to look forward to? If these are questions that have ever occurred to you and you didn't know who to ask, guess what? You are in the right place at the right event. Outside the Box, featuring 3 world champions and 2 service leaders from the Toastmasters Board of Directors. Now, before we get into the event, I would like to acknowledge the leader who provided us with the platform to benefit from this event, the District 79 Director, DTM Samer Kamal. DTM Samer, would you please say a few words about this event?
Thank you, our Master of Ceremony, Toastmaster Farheen. Hello, Toastmasters and guests. Welcome to Saudi Arabia, District 79. Assalamu alaikum wa marhaba. Toastmasters' international mission is to empower individuals to be more effective communications and leaders. Actually, this statement made me think a lot. Then what? But after being effective communications and leaders, we as Toastmasters should have a unique impact on our society, applying what we learn, especially in the challenging time that our nations are passing through nowadays. Therefore, while I'm thinking of this statement, I found a call from Sarah and Rafiq telling me about this event. And I said to myself, wow, that's exactly what I'm searching for. People who are really proven that they serve their society can help us and enlighten us. What can we do for our nations? Therefore, we are honored to host this much needed event where our great champions will spot the light on this point. We are honored that we'll have the support and the presence of our international president, Toastmaster Deepak, Menon, and our CEO, Toastmaster Daneil. My gratitude to Sarah Khan for bringing this idea and for the event chair, Rafiq, and his wonderful team who did a wonderful preparation to bring the best of District 79 to your screens. I wish you an enjoyable event. Stay safe, stay blessed. Back to you, Toastmaster Farheen.
Thank you, DTM Samer, once again, for your support and leadership, and for allowing us to bring this wonderful event for the members of District 79 and everyone beyond. Next, let's hear from a member of the Toastmasters Board of Directors, the 2019-2020 International President of Toastmasters International, DTM Deepak Menon. Please put your hands together for DTM Deepak Menon.
Greetings, fellow Toastmasters. I'm Deepak Menon, your International President. I welcome you to Outside the Box, an event organized by District 79 and hosted by my dear friend, Sarah Khan, an extremely courageous, confident, and compassionate human being. As the pandemic caused by the COVID-19 virus continues to rage around the world, our lives have changed in ways unimaginable. In this time of crisis, we've become more creative and flexible. We've adopted new technologies and adapted to the changed world. It is therefore no surprise that Toastmasters around the world have embraced online meetings enthusiastically. We continue to find courage and confidence to express our feelings and sentiments. We're letting go of our inhibitions and are finding ways to boost the spirit of Toastmasters. We're learning to find the leader in ourselves. Toastmasters in its online form is truly transforming us from being local leaders to become global leaders. We have gained the ability to influence the larger world beyond just Toastmasters. We have started thinking outside the box. Today's event provides a remarkable opportunity to interact with and learn from 3 world champions, Daneil, LaMon, Dave Ross, and Willie Jones. The inspiration we shall receive from the depth of their knowledge and experience will widen our horizon and provide us a glimpse of what Toastmasters continues to offer besides the obvious. Let us open our hearts and minds to the learnings that we shall receive. Let this unique event be the occasion for you to think outside the box and get inspired. Let the fire of passion for Toastmasters make you the flame that leads the world from darkness to light. For Toastmasters is where leaders are made.
Thank you, dear leader, for those motivational and assuring words during this difficult time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for some excitement, an opportunity for us to learn, engage, and share in the wisdom of our wonderful speakers today, outside the box, influencing the larger world beyond Toastmasters, where we will learn how the values and skills taught in Toastmasters can help inspire and influence change outside of the Toastmasters organization. Our lineup of distinguished speakers today includes the world champion of public speaking 1991, Dave Ross. Dave Ross is a speaker, trainer, facilitator, life coach, and a storyteller. He worked with native villages in Alaska, helped a small business, and coached public speakers around the world. He has traveled to 27 different countries, 49 American states, and 2 US territories. He has jumped out of airplanes, climbed the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and even swam in 5 of the 7 seas. A gifted communicator, Dave has spoken to audiences in 9 different countries, and he thinks life stories are the best form of education. The world champion of public speaking 1992, Daneil, LaMon, a 32-year veteran of Toastmasters who earned both titles of being the world champion and an accredited speaker. Until 2016, Daneil was the only Toastmaster who had become both world champion of public speaking and accredited speaker. Now, there are yet only 2 Toastmasters who have done them both. Daneil joined Toastmasters with the goal to improve his ability to use humor and gestures in public speaking. His goals were soon revised when he witnessed District 33's International Speech Contest in 1989, and thereafter winning the World Champion of Public Speaking in 1992. That's not all. We have the World Champion of Public Speaking 1997, Willie Jones, a professional speaker for 20 years, traveling to Europe and Africa and across North America, speaking to corporations, government officials, and businesses. He's the co-author of the seminar, Who Moved My Cheese?, based on the phenomenal book by the same name. A much decorated US Air Force Vietnam veteran, he completed 135 combat missions over the skies of Vietnam. He was awarded 5 air medals and the Distinguished Flying Cross for Valor in combat, participating in an act that saved the life of the president of South Vietnam. And to host this talk show and to facilitate the discussions of all these speakers, we have with us Sara Khan, an activist, advocate, and peacemonger. Her ongoing work is engaging local communities in confronting Islamophobia as an advocate for empathy. She has just guested at schools, churches, synagogues, on TEDx, HALT prized United Nations, Al Jazeera's AJ+, local newspapers, as well as guest spots on local television, radio, podcasts, a feature in Forbes magazine, Muslims of America, and cover story in the Toastmasters magazine. Sara has also co-authored Heidi Lee's Sexy with No Boundaries. With a round of applause, let's welcome our host, Sara Khan.
Thank you so much for that wonderful intro by our dynamic and world-class MC, Farheen, who whenever she speaks reminds me of a news anchor, so poised and charismatic. So thank you, Farheen. So it is such an incredible honor to host this exclusive event where I'll be interviewing 3 of the most inspiring, engaging, and enlightened people I know, who also happen to be world champions of public speaking. Dave Ross, Daneil, LaMon, and Willie Jones. Welcome, guys. It's a pleasure to have you. So today we're going to discuss how the skills and values taught in Toastmasters can help inspire and influence change outside the organization. Now, as Sister Farheen also mentioned, there's many reasons why people are attracted to Toastmasters. Like some may join to become professional speakers, others may want to be inspiring leaders, and yet others may join to find their life partners. And I wasn't one of them, okay? My family's actually watching. I actually joined Toastmasters around 9 years ago, fresh out of intensive therapy for social anxiety and agoraphobia post 9/11 Islamophobic attacks. And basically my goal was to overcome my fear of people. Now, since Toastmasters instantly embraces you as a family, I was able to achieve that goal quickly. So my very first question to the world champions is, did you have any specific goal when you joined Toastmasters? And how long did it take you to achieve that goal? So let's start with Dave Ross.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. I was muted and now I can speak.
Awesome.
Which is part of the reason I joined Toastmasters, was to have my voice heard. When I was a small child, I watched the tears well up in my grandmother's eyes as she heard the immortal speech of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, "I have a dream." I have looked at history's great speeches, Winston Churchill speeches. I've looked at speeches from moments of adversity and moments of joy. And I wanted to connect with people the way they did. That was my goal to join Toastmasters. Now, the second part of your question is, when was it that I achieved my goal? The fact is, I'm still working on that. Finding a way to connect with people in meaningful ways, to enable people to listen to each other, and not just my voice, but to each other, is a challenge that I feel I will always have to deal with. The other thing about Toastmasters, you mentioned finding a life partner. Well, I wasn't looking for a life partner, but I was looking for friends. And traveling around to different places in my professional life, I found that Toastmasters was a great way to connect and meet people. And that was part of the reason I've stayed with Toastmasters so many decades. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Dana, for that wonderful response. And now I'll probably be known as somebody who joined Toastmasters to look for a life partner. But that's so true. It's a journey in progress, and it's not as if we've achieved it already, but we're constantly striving towards it. So thank you so much. Now let's move on to Daneil, LaMon. Dana, are you here?
Thank you, Sarah. I am definitely here. And I definitely had a goal in mind when I joined Toastmasters. I believe that anything that I do, I should have a goal or purpose. Specifically for me, I joined to learn to put humor in my presentations. I was already, at the time that I joined Toastmasters, I was already working as a judge. I was speaking at churches. I was going to schools and speaking to children. But I wasn't putting humor in my presentations, and that was brought out to me. That was pointed out to me by a friend. And the key thing, though, I was asked to give a speech at a wedding. And I contacted my friend who had asked me to give the presentation to get some information about him and his bride to include in my presentation. And when he learned that I was going to give a serious speech about how communication helps to keep a marriage together, he said he didn't want that. He said, no, I don't. I want a speech that makes the audience laugh. I want a humorous speech. Well, that caused trauma to me because I had never given a speech that was supposed to intentionally be humorous. I gave the speech. It was successful. People did laugh. In fact, some people came to me and asked me if I do this regularly, and I said no, and I hope that I never have to do it again. But I joined Toastmasters because the person who was my wife at the time recommended it. And as we were talking about Toastmasters, we looked in the newspaper and there was a club advertising its meeting for that day. I attended the meeting that very day, and shortly after, not that night, but a few nights, a few meetings later, I joined that club. So the goal was to put humor in my speech. Have I progressed or have I achieved that goal? The answer is yes. As I worked on world championship speeches, it was impressed upon me that I have to have humor in the speech. I said, it's not the humorous speech contest. They said, no, it's not the humorous speech contest, but you have to have humor. Yeah. I am still working on putting humor in my presentations. It's not something that stops. I'm working on other goals as well. One of them is to work on gestures. And as you can tell from my presentation here, I'm still a baby when it comes to working on gestures. But those are the things, those are the goals that I had in mind when I joined Toastmasters.
Thank you so much, Dana. Actually, speaking of humor, that's one of my goals too. You know, people always tell me you write such funny stuff on Facebook, and then when I have to insert humor into my speeches, it becomes so hard. It's like somebody saying, okay, be funny. So it's so hard to do that. But as far as gestures, oh my God, I'm such an overly expressive person. I think I exceed in that. But thank you so much. Now moving on to Willie Jones. Willie, are you here?
I'm here.
Awesome. Awesome, Willie. Would you like to answer that question? Would you like me to repeat it, or you're good?
No, I know the question. I was in the Air Force in 1980, and a friend of mine kept asking me to go to some meeting called Toastmasters, and I kept refusing because I'm not a joiner. I'm not the type of person that joins things. And after about 4 months of refusals, he told me one day it was his birthday, and he wanted me to attend this meeting as a birthday present. So he was a good friend of mine, and I attended my first Toastmasters meeting that day, and I joined that day. And the reason I joined was when the evaluator got up and evaluated the speech, I said to myself, that's a novel thing. I already was giving speeches and talks in leadership schools about different things as a part of my Air Force career. But no one had ever said to me, this is what I heard you say, this is what I felt about that, because as a speaker prior to then, you assume that everything you say, everybody understands it, and everybody is right on the same page you are. Nothing could be further from the truth, but you don't know that. So when I saw the evaluation portion, I said, I'm joining this because this is something I'm really, really interested in. So I joined and I started speaking. I was already a good speaker, and in 3 years, I was on the World Championship finals in San Diego, California. In 3 years. I want to say 3 years because I had no idea how I got there. And I was speaker number 1 and didn't even know that was bad. So I got up and I did my speech as perfectly as I wanted to. I didn't win the contest, I didn't place, and I didn't show, but I had a great time. And I left there saying to myself, if I can figure out what the winner did to win this contest, then one day I'm going to win this contest. So obviously I figured it out because in 1997, I won the contest. So my goal continuously is to improve. I can never be the best. I'm always on a journey and I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Willie. I couldn't agree with you more. And I actually loved what your friend said as a birthday present. You know, I'm going to try that. That's what I'm going to do now. From now onwards, I'm going to invite people saying, this is my birthday gift from you guys. So thank you so much, you guys, for the answers. Amazing, wonderful. We got to know you a little bit better and really appreciate that. So now moving on to my next question. So, you know, in Toastmasters, they offer a lot of specialty clubs, right, where we focus on specific skills. For example, they have debate clubs, they have storytelling clubs. And I was actually part of one such a specialty club in Toastmasters called Improv Comedy Club. And basically in that club, I learned an exercise called Yes and. So basically in that exercise, what happens is when someone states an opinion that's contrary to yours, you say yes by acknowledging it is their truth. And then you state your position. So what you're doing is that you're giving the other person the respect by listening to them first, which makes them more receptive to your perspective as well. So, you know, this yes and approach to communication, it helped me tremendously in my personal and social life by fostering respect for different opinions. So my second question to the world champions is, if you were to pick one skill set, what have you learned in Toastmasters that has helped you personally or professionally to build bridges of understanding through communication? So let's start with Dave.
Well, thank you very much. I have to say, it was something that has been echoed frequently, is the value of humor has been something that I learned in Toastmasters and how to use humor to express an idea. Humor is a great way to disarm people who would disagree with you. For instance, if you're presenting an idea that could be a little difficult for someone to understand or listen to, self-deprecating humor, humor on yourself, really brings the guard down. It also helps people to lean forward and listen if there's a possibility of a humorous event. When I was training native tribes on how to manage United States government grants, which is a very complex and boring thing, what we did is we had games. And sometimes the games were structured on what was the correct answer. Now, you got 1 point if you gave a correct answer. You got 2 points if you made the facilitator laugh. And you got 3 points if it was a correct answer and you made the facilitator laugh. So people tried to be humorous, and that made it more interesting. But even in difficult environments, more serious environments, I too was in the Air Force, and occasionally I had to testify on behalf of some airman that got in trouble. And sometimes I found that even in that very serious military board, being humorous, adding a little joke, could really help the cause. So a lot of airmen who needed help and who were really worth the effort would seek me out because they knew that I could put in some good words for them. Humor has been a key to unlock many doors, and it's also been a way to bring down many barriers.
Absolutely, Dave. I can completely agree with you on that because I speak about religion and politics and, you know, all sensitive issues outside of Toastmasters, and humor helps so much to be able to connect with your audience, to break the ice and stuff. So completely, I agree with you on that. Thank you, Dave. Let's move on to Dana.
I think the important skill that I learned, since you asked us to narrow it down to just one, is to be an engaged listener. When I say engaged listener, I am talking three elements. One is to have open ears, to have an open mind, and an open heart. The open ears is very important, and when your ears are open to hear what people have to say, then that should also mean that your mouth is closed. So a sub-point of being an engaged listener is knowing when not to talk, and I find that very important. We all in Toastmasters have a lot to say, and we've been taught to say it. It's an important thing to learn when not to say it. So I don't offer input or evaluation just because the thought crossed my mind. I wait for the person to invite it. Having the open mind also means don't make conclusions before you have a chance to hear what the person has to say. An open mind is a mind that is allowed to grow. And it's important that you allow new information to come in and see how that impacts your knowledge and your ability to think and create. And then to have an open heart is about caring for the person who is speaking. I recently ran for state office. I ran for state senator here in California. I came in third place. I needed to be in first or second in order to move on. So I'm not moving on to the November election. But I learned the importance of just listening. When you're running for office, listen to the voters as to what they want. I told them, I'm running to be your representative. I want to hear what you have to say. Many voters express ideas that were different from mine with regard to religion, with regard to guns, with regard to patriotism, with regard to healthcare, all kinds of things. But for me, my job was to listen. I wasn't there to give my opinion. It was to listen to what they had to say and figure out how I could best represent them if I served or when I served as the state senator. So engaged listening, having open ears, open mind, and open heart is the skill that I think is most beneficial to me.
Wow, that was incredible. Beautiful, Dana. So remember, guys, all of the audience members, open ears, open mind, and open hearts. Okay? Thank you so much, Dana. Moving on to the next speaker, Willie?
Yes, I want to echo what Dana said because listening is also one of my superpowers. I learned listening through the evaluation process in Toastmasters. It's a skill that you pick up that's not a part of the program. But over time, if you become an excellent evaluator, the reason you are an excellent evaluator is of your ability to be an engaged listener, exactly what Dana just said. And then once you acquire that skill, you find yourself able to answer the second question that a person is often asking you. It's not the first question usually that they want an answer to, it's the second question. So if the person says, do you have a watch? No, they don't want to know, do you have a watch? They want to know what time it is. You know, if your spouse says, do I look fat in this? He doesn't want to know whether she looks fat in that. And you better have the right answer. But my own skill set that I'd like to point out and emphasize here is being authentic. I believe that if the audience, any audience, singular, plural, large, small, if people detect that you are being authentic, then they are more than likely to have an open expression with you, and they become engaging with you. And we can sense your child when they're about 2 years old can sense authenticity, and so you gain that skill before you can even talk. So if you pay attention to it as you grow up and you express your authentic self, then you are miles ahead of anyone in any endeavor that you engage in. Oftentimes, I talk to people who have English as a second language, and they struggle. They always want to tell you, give you a disclaimer before they speak. They say, by the way, I don't speak English very well. English is my second language. And I always say to them, why don't you just talk? We will tune to whatever frequency you're on, and we will understand everything you say. There is no need to tell us that your English is your second language. Be authentic. Don't make excuses for yourself. We will pick it up. The human beings are remarkable. It's remarkable that we even understand each other speaking the same language, but we somehow struggle through it, and we will struggle through it when people, if language is your, if English is your second language. So being authentic to me is a superpower that you can develop, and if you maintain it over the years, people will always remember that, you know what, that guy was always authentic. He was never putting on a show. He's the same person all the time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely, Willie. I echo your sentiment. It is extremely important to be authentic. So we had such wonderful answers from all three champions: injecting humor, listening with open ears, open mind, and open heart, and being authentic. Wow. By the way, guys, can somebody have wow as the word of the day? Because I'll be using that quite a lot. That's the first thing that I say, wow. So moving on to the next question. So, we live in a starkly polarized society, isn't it? And, personally, I believe that whether it be in our communities or whether it be in our families, we have to be able to talk about taboo subjects like religion and politics to at least gain mutual forbearance. It's like the white elephant in the room that nobody can ignore. So I believe that Toastmasters is a great platform to be able to practice being sensitive while addressing sensitive issues. Because whenever I have spoken about delicate topics in Toastmasters, I've learned to do it through sharing personal stories, rather than inserting personal opinions. Because stories can convey our ideas and they can engage our listeners on an emotional level. So instead of being offended, our listeners can actually empathize with us. So my question to the world champions is, what are some of the other ways you have couched your messages so that your listeners remain open to your viewpoint? So let's start with Dave.
Well, thank you again. Recently, I belong to 3 different Toastmasters clubs. I know many of us belong to multiple clubs, but one of them is a very advanced club, although not titled an advanced club, but it is a very accomplished club. And I wanted to say something that I felt deeply about, that I knew would be controversial. Now, I hearken back to when I first joined Toastmasters, or say more correctly, when I first started attending regularly, because I was too young to join. It was in the fall of 1971. And those of you who were in the United States in 1971, late 60s era, knew that we were polarized greatly on many issues. On the war in Vietnam, on civil rights. It was as bad, or maybe even worse than it is now. But in that club, there were people on the right and people on the left who listened to each other, who shared ideas, who could disagree with ideas and not disagree with the person. One of the things I learned was it was very important for you as a speaker to listen to the audience, to see where they were, what was resonating with them, and how they were taking your message in. And I have used that. And I've used that again at my club, where I was presenting a very controversial speech, disarmed with humor. And then I would provide a logical foundation that supported my point of view. But I also provided a way of understanding an opposing point of view. Because just because we disagree doesn't mean that one of us has to be wrong. And when you open that up to that concept, then suddenly people listen, as was said earlier, with an open mind, an closed mouth, and open heart. And when your ears are open to hearing something that perhaps is difficult for you to hear in a way that you've never heard it before, you can have impact. Oddly enough, years after I gave that speech, 2 or 3 years later, a young man who was in the audience at the time mentioned before an audience in which he was speaking how my speech influenced his thought pattern and changed him forever.
Wow.
Now, it wasn't because I was a great speaker, it's because I learned the technique of listening to the audience, building a logical pattern, and opening the idea that I was not necessarily right, but I had another point of view.
Wow. Excellent, Dave. Thank you so much. That is so true. Listening to their truth, right? I mean, their truth is as self-evident to them as ours is to us. So thank you. You definitely mentioned a great point here. Moving on to Dana.
This is an important issue because recently I attended a Toastmasters meeting, actually via video, and it was a Toastmasters meeting in another country. The Sergeant at Arms announced that we were welcome to the meeting, where we were permitted to talk about anything that we wanted to talk about except politics, religion, and sex. And my thought was, you've just taken all the great topics off the table. I think it's important that you can talk about politics, religion, sex, and other sensitive issues without offending. One of the things that I think we learn in Toastmasters, or hopefully we learn in Toastmasters, is not to be offended because someone has a different opinion than we have. But one of the tools that I employ, similar to what you mentioned, Sarah, is that I talk about my experiences. My experiences and what I've learned from those experiences. I am fully persuaded that when I'm giving a speech, I'm not going to have 100% of the audience listening to me 100% of the time. And that is not my goal when I prepare a presentation. I am happy, I feel successful if I influence one life. So I share my experiences and what I learned from them to give the audience an opportunity for them to pick out what benefits them. Of all the things that you heard Dana talk about, what is it that you can relate to that's going to help you in your life? So I include politics in my speech. I gave a speech in Malaysia, and I made it put a little humor in there about politics. But I did what Dave suggests: is you make it you make the humor. You poke at yourself. So I poked at the United States when I was in Malaysia. Now, when I'm in the United States, I might poke at Malaysia. I don't know. You have to share your experience. And another thing, I'm no longer trying to persuade. I'm informing and inspiring. That's what I'm trying to do. So I offer my experiences and what I learned, and I let you choose what benefits you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dana. And that is so right. You know, being able to weave your perspective into your personal experiences. And talking about religion and politics and the taboo subjects, last year I did my contest speech that I won in my district. And I did speak about religion and politics. And then somebody said, if you would have just included sex, it would have been all the taboo subjects. And I'm like, really? I mean, I was raised by Catholic nuns in an all-girls convent. I'm a Muslim hijabi woman. I have nothing more to say, nothing to say about that. But thank you so much, Dana. Now moving on to Willie.
Yes. Yes. What, can you hear me?
Yes, Willie, we can hear you.
I want to echo again. I have to stop Dana from talking before I speak. He tends to get inside my head and steal my thoughts and put them on the screen. Well, you know, I've had the opportunity to be a facilitator of classes in race relations as well as women's issues and those controversial subjects. And one of the things that I learned from all of that helps me professionally is I never have the answer. I never walk into a room and tell people I know the answer to the bigotry problems or the racist problem. I have questions. And I believe that as long as we're able to question our own beliefs, and if we're open to new information or information about our beliefs, we may have the opportunity to move forward. And when I use may, I use it deliberately, because oftentimes what keeps us trapped in our own cage is our inability to be confident enough to step outside of that cage. I've had people say things to me privately that they would never say in public. I've had people send me private notes and say, thank you for saying that, but they won't say it in public. And that's all because of their own lack of confidence or lack of strength to get out and do these things themselves. So oftentimes, I believe that we can move society, we can move communities forward, not by having the answers, but by having the questions. And not question it from your point of view, questioning it from an international point of view. So let me give you an example. So when I taught race relations, I never talked about it. The subject was Black history. That was the title of the seminar, but I didn't call it that. I said, this is American history. We're not going to talk about the great Black people in American history. We're going to talk about great people in American history. If it turns out that they're Black or white or green or blue, so be it. The point is, it is not a compartmented history, because you couldn't have this without that. And so therefore, it all has to be talked about together. And different people have different viewpoints on why it happened that way. I have the same questions about things myself. So I have to be open to ideas. I have to be open to information that is contrary to what I may believe. But more than anything else, in order to be successful in this type of communications and moving things along, don't be the person with the answer. Be the person with the question.
Wow, that is incredible, Willie, and I so agree. Move the society forward by not having the answers, but the questions. And yeah, you know, our purpose as speakers or leaders is not to change somebody else's perspective, but just to broaden the dimension of our perception collectively. So excellent, Willie. Now moving on to my next question. Now, all four of us would be considered minorities in this country, right? And diversity is what makes any country stronger and creative and more innovative. Now, Toastmasters as an organization exemplifies unity and diversity, where we not only embrace, but we also celebrate our differences. But I'm sure, as all of you know, that's not always the case outside of Toastmasters, right? In the real world. So my question to the world champions is, how can we demonstrate to the broader public that diversity is what makes the world a better place for all of us? So let's start with Dave.
Thank you very much. 2 Toastmaster events at 2 different international conventions. One was 1992, the year that Dana won the world championship. There was a Toastmaster from South Africa, this was before apartheid fell, who ran around and found every Black Toastmaster he could find and introduced himself. Hello, I am John, I am from South Africa, nice to meet you. He did this, and he just went and hit all of us. because he could. He couldn't do that at home. Last year, or maybe it was the year before, I stole a picture that was on Facebook of a man who was clearly wearing what you might describe as Jewish garb, and a man who was clearly wearing what you might describe as Arab garb, a gutra and a thobe, embracing as Toastmasters. I teach English to kids in China. Now, if you've been paying attention to some of the back and forth between China and Americas, that might be a little dicey. But because I know that we can always connect, no matter what the barrier may seem to be, it's a joy in my life that they are able to connect with me and I with them. How can we bring this to others? Well, I think doing something like this, we have Toastmasters from all over the world right here now. We have Toastmasters who have all from different ages, different backgrounds, sharing, listening, and growing all of the time. If we can do this, we can reflect it in our society. Now, it's harder. It's harder to do sometimes because we have the common relationship of Toastmasters, but we have those great skills of Toastmasters, of listening, of using humor to pull down barriers, of communicating in ways that can help us just inch a little forward whenever we hear or see or experience things that would separate us from others. And I think that's the key.
Absolutely, Dave. You're so right. All of the skills that we have acquired in Toastmasters, the values that have been taught to us, we can use that outside to be able to bridge that gap. Thank you, Dave. Moving on to Dana. Yes, cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
I think this is the most challenging question that you've given to us so far. And I try to stay positive. I am a positive person. I'm an optimist. But I don't know that there's much that we can do to get the broader world to appreciate diversity and the value that is in diversity. And I say that because of my experience, particularly as a blind person in this sighted world. I became blind when I was 4 years old. I did all of my education as a blind person. When it came to applying to college, I attended Yale, but Yale's initial attitude was, he's blind, we don't think he can do it. When I successfully finished Yale, I thought, okay, it should be easier from now on. No, when I applied to the University of Southern California Law School, you're blind, we don't think you can do it. And when I graduated from USC and passed the bar exam and applied for jobs, it said, you're blind, I don't think you can do it. And so you encounter those mental barriers that people have. And the barrier might relate to a disability, it might relate to a skin color, to a nationality, to an accent, to a gender, to an age. These barriers are in people's minds, and some experience that they've had in the course of their life help to build these barriers. And they're not easy to break down. It requires moving stuff around in their mind, things that are long established. So what do we do? I think the answer is we just do what we do as Toastmasters. I think Dave alluded to that. We take the skills that we've learned in Toastmasters and we demonstrate them outside in our everyday life. If we're professional speakers and we're giving seminars and workshops and keynotes. If we're teachers, we do it as teachers. in our communities, in our synagogues, in our churches, we simply live the example and hope that the experience that another person sees will see the value in what diversity offers.
Absolutely, Dana. Thank you so much for that perspective too. And I do agree with you because, in my community, I have a lot of hijabi Muslim women, and they've always struggled with finding jobs to be, once during interviews, when they notice that the person is wearing a hijab, they don't get to their jobs. And the only thing that I was able to say to them to inspire or motivate them is just get out there and let people know us so that they realize that we have more in common than differences. But yes, it is a challenge. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Dana. Now moving on to Willie. Willie, I hope Dana didn't answer your question. The question.
Oh, he didn't. He didn't. He didn't answer my question. As a matter of fact, I disagree with him. I like that. So let me tell you one of the most remarkable things that have happened in the last 3 months that illustrates my point. You have watched on television in the United States all of the first responders, healthcare workers, doctors, and nurses in these hospitals who are doing everything possible to save the lives of these people who come into these hospitals. What have these people looked like on television? You've seen Arabs, you've seen whites and blacks and greens and blues and yellows. I look at the TV and I say to myself, that's America. But we never see this. This is not what you see. If they put a show on TV about coronavirus next year and they have the cast there, you're not going to see what is real in the real world. So my point is this: we are a lot more diverse than we even know. And the reason we don't know that is because of the stories that we've told ourselves and the false images that we have been promoting, not we as individuals, but corporations who are trying to make money. They believe that they know if I market this way, it's going to bring customers my way. So it is no mistake when you see people on TV in different programs and commercials, they're not there by accident. It wasn't the person who did the best test, the best interview test. They specifically have people there. So that create the images that the marketeers believe promote the products in the way that they want it promoted. But lo and behold, you look out there, if you watch after this program and you watch the first responders on TV and the people who are out there risking their lives every single day to take care of these infected people, you will see a whole different group of people than you see every day. I recall back in, I think it was 91, when Clarence Thomas was being elevated to the Supreme Court, and at the hearing in the Senate in the United States, the Democratic side had witnesses come on board. And for the first time in my adult life, I saw on my TV screen about 100 Black lawyers. I didn't even know they existed. And I have a college education. So my point to you is diversity abounds at the individual level. It isn't, we are diverse, but at a level where bigotry is a marketing tool or it's a money-making tool, it is not a good idea to show a young female in a hijab. Oh, is it a hijab, Sarah?
No, actually, it's hijab, but I'm actually
hijab?
liking the. I'm liking the hijab.
You have, if you put a person on in a hijab, they have to have a certain role. It just can't be this person is a doctor or a lawyer. It has to be a certain type. I see the red light. I think I'll hush, but I'm glad I disagreed with Dana on one point.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Willie. Excellent. I mean, we all have our own unique perspectives based on our experiences. And that is why I always like to say that our truth is as self-evident to ours as others is to theirs. Thank you so much, guys. So now moving on to my next question. You know, I'm sure most of us here have heard of that phrase, it's not about you, it's about the audience, right? And it is great advice, it's excellent advice, but I feel like sometimes we take it the wrong way. where we fall into the trap of doing whatever it takes to gain our audience's approval, right? Because we want to be liked by everyone. We don't want to disappoint anyone. But, when we focus so much on the audience, then we may start thinking like, what stories will my audience find appealing? What messages would they find profound? So, when the desire to please the audience becomes so strong, then we may feel compelled to insert characters in our speeches that didn't exist, or aha moments that we never experienced, or lessons that we never lived. And, I feel like when that happens, then we land up compromising on the integrity of our stories and the integrity of who we are. Now, integrity is such a core fundamental value that we've been taught in Toastmasters, right? So my question to the world champions is, whether it be in our speeches in Toastmasters or whether it be outside of Toastmasters, how can we preserve our integrity and stay true to ourselves so that there is no conflict between my truth from my heart and winning the hearts of the audience? So let's start with Dave.
Thank you again. One of the things that, again, that Daneil LaMon keeps on stealing stuff. He said, if I can connect to just one person, and I have echoed that as well. In fact, I borrowed it from the 1987 world champion, where he said, if my speech can connect to one person, then that's a value. And the only way you can be sure that that speech has value is to be authentic and have it come from your own heart. Because the most universal truths tend to be the ones that are most personal. And even though I may not have experienced being a refugee, even though I have not experienced getting in a massive car accident or not experienced those sorts of things, I've experienced loss, joy, hope, and fear. I've experienced those things. And if you, as a speaker, can talk from the heart, it will resonate with the audience. It may only resonate with one person, but again, if that's your goal, you have every obligation to be authentic and truthful. One of the things I've noticed I want to say in recent years, because it certainly wasn't during my time of competing, but I've noticed within Toastmasters competitions, people structure speeches to win a competition rather than structure speeches to have meaning and significance. Now, it's easy for someone who's won to say that, but I think it's important that you say something of value and importance, because that resonates with the audience. I remember Daneil LaMon's speech in 1991. I was moved, totally moved by that speech. I will remember it for the rest of my life, because it was real, it was significant, it was powerful, it touched every emotion. I'm not blind. I'm not a judge. Okay, we're both from California, we're both Black, but we have totally different lives. But yet he connected with me in a very powerful way that I carry with me forever. And I will say this, if you speak that way and you never win a trophy ever, you are a great speaker. If you speak with falsehood and you somehow work your way to win a trophy, there's not much saying for your speech.
Dana?
Maintaining integrity is extremely important in the business of professional speaking. But I also found in other aspects of life, as I mentioned earlier, I ran for state senate here in California, and I had to make decisions before I even announced that I ran. what is going to be my bottom line? What is it that no matter what happens, I will not compromise it? To me, that's what it's all about when you talk about maintaining integrity. And what allowed me to do that, number one, I believe that we have to be able to define who we are. Who is Daneil LaMon, and what does he stand for? Several years ago, I created that definition for myself. So I see myself as spirit, love, forgiveness, possibilities, power, wisdom, gratitude, and excellence. That's the definition of Daneil LaMon, and those things cannot be compromised. So no matter what situation I am in, whether I'm on the stage giving a speech to an audience in China, or whether I am on the campaign trail talking to potential voters, or at a Toastmasters convention, or at the local high school where I volunteer working with high school students in mock trial, I am not going to compromise any of those elements of the definition of who I am. Nothing will make me do it. There's no amount of money. There's no award that can be granted. There's no accolade that I might seek. There's no vote that I want that's going to cause me to compromise who I am. So I think that to maintain integrity as Toastmasters or as professional speakers or as political leaders or whatever it is that we do, it's important that we have a clear definition of who we are and what our bottom line is. Sarah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dana. So if anybody in the audience missed that, define who you are and what you stand for, as that cannot be compromised. Wonderful. Now let's move on to Willie. Dana, you probably answered.
Dana, Dana, now I know why you didn't win that election. I have integrity and politics are mutually exclusive terms. You know, the object of the exercise is to win the election. It has nothing to do with integrity and all of that high mighty stuff that you're talking about. The object is to win the election. And Dave, you said that about speeches and people crafting ways to win the contest. The object of the exercise is to win the contest. It doesn't. Nobody came to hear you on top of the mountain talking about some magnanimous stuff that you believe in. You want to win the contest. And so my point about that, yes, I don't compromise my integrity, but sometimes I regret that. One story here. So I met a person, a friend of mine. I'm a private pilot. So a friend of mine who was also in charge of the FAA facility here in Honolulu, she told me one day, this was in 1998. She said, if you get something together and put it in a manila envelope, I will give it to Oprah Winfrey's private pilot because he's a friend of mine. And when Oprah is on that airplane at the right moment, he'll give it to her. And if this turns into you making a 2-minute or 3-minute appearance on Oprah, it's game, set, match. And I said, wow, I'll do that. But at the time, I'm traveling and I don't have anything to give to Oprah. Someone said to me, you know what, we can write a book for you. We can put your name on the book. We can get all sorts of endorsements on the book. And we can have this thing ready in less than a month. All you have to do is pay us $10,000. I almost wrote that check. But sitting on my shoulder was my mother. My mother, rest her soul. And she said, if you dare put your picture on a book or your name on something that you didn't do yourself, I'm bringing you to heaven with me. And so I didn't do it. But over the years, because I never did get to Oprah the long way, but over the years, I'd look back over my shoulder and I said to myself, you know what? Maybe I should have done that, because once I got on Oprah and it was game, set, match, then I could reform. I could find all sorts of moral platitudes to show contrition for my sin. So my point is, yes, retain your integrity, but whenever I'm speaking to an audience, there's something I want from that audience. And so therefore, I'm going to use my communication skills to get whatever it is that I want. I promise you, I'm not an evil person, so I never have an evil thought about something I want. But the point I'm making is yes, I have integrity, but I also want to win the contest.
Thank you so much, Willie. I can understand and agree with your perspective. Oh, start my video. Says, thank you so much, Willie. I do understand your perspective. I can completely understand where you're coming from. And when we start these question and answers, it goes as a discussion from Dave to Dana, and then it becomes a debate.
Yeah, right. and we love it.
Totally changing it to a debate. But I do personally believe that when I attach something to a value, it really helps me stay authentic and connected versus a goal. So personally, I do feel like anything that I do in life, when I have a value attached to it, it's just better for me, and it comes across as very authentic to the audience as well. But thank you so much. Great perspectives. I'm absolutely loving it. I hope the audience is enjoying it as much as I am. Now, moving on to my last question. But before I do that, I just want to find out from Brother Nooman and Rafiq, is the chat on? And are people posting questions? Because this is my last question, and then I'm going to move on to the chat.
Yes, there are plenty of questions. We will be sharing it with you shortly.
Okay, awesome, cool. So my last question actually pertains to the crisis that we are in today. But before I do that, I do want to share something personal. But I just want to share with the world champion, so the rest of you 500 people can close your ears. So basically, a long time ago, I used to suffer from health anxiety. And basically, COVID and all of the news coverage surrounding it really triggered that health anxiety in me. And, last month, there were nights that I couldn't sleep because I was so terrified of having contracted COVID when I have been self-quarantined. So when I found myself in this state of helplessness, I thought of all of those people who have personally confided in me about having chronic health anxiety. So what I decided to do is I decided to reach out to all of them just to find out how they're doing, and to let them know that I feel with them and I'm here for them in case they need me. So that's just something very small that I did. But I want to know from you guys, as Toastmasters, we learn to inspire, to motivate, and to empower our audience. So what are some other ways that we can use these skills, to offer love, help, and support to all those who have lost their smiles in these challenging times? And I have a part 2 to that question too. What if we are the ones in distress, right? So how can we be our own audience? How can we strengthen our internal dialogue? After all, as they say, you cannot serve from an empty vessel, right? Mm-hmm. So let me ask Dana. Dana, are you here? Maybe Dana is on mute.
Dana is unmuting.
Oh, he's unmuting.
All right. See, you sprung a surprise, Sarah. I have an assistant here helping me with mute and unmute, and she was trained to unmute when Dave stops talking.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I said Dana first. Okay, I'm so sorry. I meant to.
No, yeah. I mean, I can go first. It's up to you.
You would. Now that I said Dana, I would love for you to go first, but I don't want other people to say that Dana answered all our questions. No, Dana, actually, please go ahead. Go first.
In 2012, I released my fourth book that was titled Making the Moment Meaningful, Creating a Path to Purpose and Fulfillment. And in it, I propose 4 pillars of meaningfulness, and they are purpose, growth, connection, and self-definition. In the moment that we find ourselves in this global crisis, it's still an ideal time to make the moment meaningful. And you can choose what part of meaningfulness you want to work on, or what pillars you want to work on. As you described in your question, you chose connection, where you made connection with people that you know that might need to hear from you or hear from someone. I've chosen growth, because in any crisis or any changed situation, we have an opportunity to grow. And the elements of growth includes experiencing new things. So giving presentations via video is a new thing for me. It's a tough thing for me because I rely on hearing and feeling my audience since I can't see them. And I tend to have this ostrich way of thinking is, if I can't see you, then you should be able to see me. So video isn't my medium, but I've learned to use it. I decided that I wanted to understand a little bit more about my computer, and I've doing some research on some other topics that are important to me. So I talk about these learning processes or ways that we can grow. One is experiencing new things. Another is to learning, continual learning. And the other is to letting things go, things that you've been holding on to. And I think this opportunity that we face for ourselves and for our friends and family, we can help to grow during this process. So when the crisis is declared over, we are better people than we were before it began.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dana. Absolutely, absolutely agree with you. Moving on to Dave.
Well, Sarah, as you know, I recently lost my best friend. I can't find her. She walked out of my life on her 4 legs. She's a cat, and she's a blind cat. So I'm particularly worried about her ability to bring in all the senses and the perils outside of the door. I've been searching for her constantly. And this has brought in a period of personal depression. Very sad. I mean, to share this all with you. And I had to give a speech last week at my Toastmasters club. And actually, all I wanted to do was find my cat. I didn't want to write a speech. So I wrote a speech about how we, all of us on this video, all of us on planet Earth, have experienced hardships, and now we're experiencing a hardship together. And how whoever we are, wherever we are, whatever condition we are in, we have within our family's DNA individuals who've survived horrible hardships. Whether it's been war, violence, slavery, whatever, they've survived. I included 3 stories from my family history where individuals in my family thought all was lost. And yet somehow I was born. It happened. And so a lot of times, actually, I give a speech And I will do this. And this is one of the, many of us have discovered the great therapy that Toastmasters offers. And Sarah, you can testify to that yourself. I found that the opportunity to speak to an audience and share that common personal feeling has had a healing effect.
Absolutely.
I say our gift to communicate is something that we should not just hold in the club.
Mm.
You know, Dana mentioned videos. I've made a couple videos already, and I'll make a few more that I'll share in social media, again, to help me and other people deal with this international pandemic. That's a little bit of redundancy, but this pandemic that is affecting us. The more you can give yourself a pep talk, the more you can share it with others.
Absolutely, absolutely, Dave. Thank you so much. And I'm still making dua for your cat. Inshallah, inshallah you find her. Moving on to Willie.
For me, the key to wrestling this pandemic to the ground in your own life is knowledge. When the pandemic first arrived, like everyone else, it put me back on my heels. I am in the group of people who are likely to be killed if I get it. So therefore, I was terrified. And so in order to assuage my terror, I wanted to learn something about the threat. It's the same thing when I was in Vietnam in the war. When I first landed in Vietnam as a young guy and I was well trained and I had all of this equipment and all of this ungodly stuff you put on when you go on your missions, you're terrified because there's a possibility that you're not going to go home. But the more you learn, the more knowledge you have, then you are able to put that information in perspective. So in terms of this pandemic, what I say to people, I say that fear is healthy. Fear has saved mankind since the beginning of time. Fear has a very good purpose in your life. It focuses you on something that you need to do something about. And if you don't let the fear freeze you, it may freeze you for a moment, but you need to gain information about it because information is power. The other thing is, if you turn on the TV every day and you listen to 15 different people tell you 15 different things, then the terror will continue. It will continue because you'll say, well, I didn't hear that and I didn't know that. So I'm not talking about that type of education. I'm talking about do your own research if necessary, find out what the facts are about the threat, fashion a way for you to mitigate that threat in your own life, and then put it in the right place in your mind and get on with your life. The other thing about worry is another thing I want to point out. Before computers, I carried my life around in a briefcase. I had a day timer. I had a calculator. I had all of my important papers, my credit cards and everything in my briefcase. My life was in my briefcase. And I traveled across the country a lot of time because I worked for a company and I was an operations manager, so I needed this stuff. I lost the briefcase. I didn't know where the briefcase was. I panicked. I completely went crazy because I knew that any moment the world was going to come to an end because I didn't have that briefcase. And my terror went on for 2 solid weeks. Lo and behold, after 2 weeks, I was still alive. My life was going on. Nothing bad had happened. And so I said to myself, what was I doing? I was killing myself for 2 weeks over this, thinking that all of the stuff in that briefcase was why I was alive, when obviously after 2 weeks, none of it was important. So I established in my mind, and I pass along to people today in speeches, do you realize that 99.9% of the stuff you worry about never happens? And so therefore, all you have to do is to say to yourself, who am I kidding? I don't need to worry about this, because worrying has never solved a single problem ever in the history of the world. So stop worrying, number one. Educate yourself, number two. Get on with your life. This too shall pass.
Amen.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Willie, for that. So that's we are done with my questions from my side. I hope you guys, all of you audience members, feel as educated and entertained as I do. So now we're going to move on to the Q&A from the audience. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm looking at the questions, the name of the person, and then I match it to the face here. And if I like the face, then I pick you. I'm not doing that. No, I have no faces. No, I'm not seeing any faces here. So I have the questions. So my first question is for Dave Ross, and believe it or not, it comes from a fellow world champion, Mohammad Katani. And he asks, where do you find the line between being humorous and being a clown? By the way, to me, Mohammad Katani is a clown.
Oh!
He's a very dear friend of mine too, so I'm just kidding. He's going to take it as a joke. So Dave, where do you find the line between being humorous and being a clown?
Well, sometimes I cross that line. I really do. But I think if you're using humor intentionally, again, it's part of why you are building that presentation. I was coaching someone and he said, well, I've got to add humor. What sort of joke can I put here? I said to him, what you want to do is have humor that builds on your message. If it's just there for humor's sake, then that's kind of being a clown. But if it's there with a purpose, if you use it as a joke to structure the communication, then I think humor is a very powerful tool.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brother Mohammad Katani. I hope Dave Ross has answered your question. And by the way, after every few questions, I see Mohammad Katani's question again. Brother, this is cheating. That's not allowed. So the next one is for Daneil LaMon. This comes from Naki. I can't pronounce the middle and last name, but from Brother Naki. Dana, I am also blind and often feel that facial expressions and hand gestures may disadvantage me in competitions. How do you work on your body language?
When I was preparing for the World Championship, I had a body language coach that, in fact, was my wife. So as I practiced my speech, she would give me input as to what I should do, how I should stand, what I should do with my hands, because it's not natural for me. And even today now, when I give speeches, I have Toastmasters and friends who will tell me my facial expression, what it said, so that I'll have an idea that that I am speaking with my body, with my face. So my suggestion would be that you get someone who's willing to be a coach and give you that input on what your body is saying. But try your best to make it natural. When I was practicing, if it didn't feel natural, I didn't do it, because I wanted to be into my speech and my message. When I was competing, I didn't want to be worried about, did I move exactly right? Did I turn exactly right? So involve the services of your Toastmasters as evaluators or family members who can help you with your gestures.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I hope your question was answered. Moving on to my next question. Let me see. This is for Willie. Willie, this question is from Serena from England, and she's asking you specifically, did you have mentors? And what are your thoughts on how to get the support you need to succeed?
I had mentors, but they didn't know they were my mentors. What I mean by that is there were people who I admired, and there were people who I saw as good examples, and I would watch them. Some of them were on television, and some of them were in real life. Some of them I knew, some I didn't. So I didn't have anyone specific. What I knew was that I had a good foundation under me. I have a good foundation under me from my parents. And so therefore, what I needed was skills. I didn't really need a foundation of how to be a good citizen or how to be a man. It was all about, or even a speaker. I could speak, I just didn't understand the nuances of speaking. I didn't understand body language and vocal variety and those things. So I would find people who were good at it and I would study them. So that's how I discovered mentors in my life. No one specifically. What was the second part?
Oh, there was a second part?
I thought it was. Maybe not.
Yeah, you know, no, I think I'm done with that.
Okay.
Okay.
If I covered it, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you so much. Now moving on to my next question. I actually found a great question. Okay, this one is for Dave Ross by Gavilier. Yeah. So her question is, when you feel like giving up, what do you do to lift your spirit? Now, it could be giving up, you know, within Toastmasters as a leader, struggling through going up positions or whatever it may be, or as a contestant. So what do you do to lift your spirit? What makes you want to go on and push yourself and go on?
Wow. Okay, we will keep this secret between the 500 people online here, so no, this won't come back. I spend a lot of time talking to myself. I really do. And again, going through the different bumps and bruises of life, the heartaches, the losses, the failures, I've experienced times where I had to give myself a pep talk. I've had to tell myself, okay, let's go, Dave. And I usually talk in the, I don't talk, I talk in the first person or the second person, but I give myself a pep talk. We have a gift of public speaking, and I'm not afraid to unleash it on myself. The other thing is to visualize what it is I want or how I want the world to be beyond my current situation. Right now, again, I mentioned my cat, and I will tell you, if you're not a pet owner who's ever been in love with your animal, you probably don't understand this. But if you bonded with a pet and suddenly that pet is out of your life, it's just like a family member, like a child. And it's been very hard, especially during this period of pandemic when, you know, we are isolated. She was a very important part of my feeling not isolated, and now I am. So I have to tell myself, I have to remind myself. And since we are talking about religion and politics and other things, politics, if things upset you one way or the other, turn the TV off, switch to programs or channels that bring you spirit. And if we're talking about religion, embrace it. If you are a person of faith, embrace it. Now, I know many of us here right now have very different faiths, but we have the faith in our belief and our connection with a higher power. Embrace it. That's my recommendation. Talk to yourself like a crazy person and embrace your faith.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you so much. I just want to ask the timer, was the green light for me or was it for the speaker?
No, that was for the speaker, actually.
Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Now moving on to my next question, and this question is actually for all of you guys, so anybody can answer it. How has winning the World Championship of Public Speaking changed your life? And this comes from Rasul Maudu from Jordan. So guys, basically, like, how many Lamborghinis do you guys own? So that's my take on that question. But basically, what they're asking is, how has it changed your life? Who would like to take this first? would like to take that first?
Oh,
Anybody?
Willie's talking, but he's muted.
Oh, Willie. Willie, you're muted.
Okay, I'm not muted now.
Okay, awesome.
So when I when I won the world championship, I thought that my picture would be on the cover of Toastmaster magazine, that I would be on Good Morning America, perhaps one of the late night shows, David Letterman or something like that. So I left New Orleans that day, walking on cloud nine. Of course, my picture didn't appear on the cover, and I was not on Good Morning America, and I'm still waiting for David Letterman, even though he's not even on TV anymore. But I went out and I promoted myself as the world champion of public speaking. And one of the things that I decided that I would do is I would speak for free to anyone who wanted to hear me, because I believe, and I still believe today, I have something to say. And so therefore, the way that it's changed my life, it has increased the radius around me of influence. And so therefore, I've had a chance to talk to college kids in Kenya and Nairobi. I've had a chance to talk to fifth graders in California. I've had a chance to talk to parents. So I've had a chance to talk to people about things that are important to them. And I've had the ability to craft my message in a way that benefited them, because I believe 100% that it's not about me, it's about them. And so it is my life's goal to leave this planet better than I found it. And so therefore, in order for me to do that, I have been able to use this skill in this platform, because the platform will get noticed, right? I can send someone a marketing tool and say that I'm the world champion of public speaking, and of course that gets their attention. So in that regard, it is a great first step, but you have to have some feet to put in those shoes when you get an answer. So I think that the other part of that is one of the reasons that I'm still a Toastmaster is because I never stopped learning. I have stolen some of the best stories to put into my repertoire from my fellow Toastmasters over the last 20 years. And it's a gift that keeps on giving. So as the world champion, I can get good seats in places at Toastmaster places, and people recognize me at conventions. So that's great also.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Willie. And I love what you said. It's a great first step. And by the way, now I feel so guilty, guys, because I haven't won the world champion and I was on the cover of the
Yeah,
and I got to do something to win it now. So would anybody else like to answer this question? Let me know. Otherwise, we move on.
Yes. Yeah, I do have to say this. Since winning the world championship, my biggest problem is where to park my Maserati. I just don't know where. But the other thing is that opening doors has been really good. It's been amazing. I was in the Air Force at the time I won it, and I think it may have been responsible for at least a promotion or two in one way or another. But it gave some credibility in what I would say. But oddly enough, there are those who prefer not to listen to someone who isn't marketing themselves as a public speaking coach within Toastmasters. I won the world championship. Yeah, but you did that so long ago, it really doesn't matter. They weren't really speaking English back in those days, so.
I'd like to comment on it as well, but for me it was very different because I got involved in the World Championship just for fun. I had no idea about professional speaking. I had no goal for it to be professional speaking. I was perfectly happy with working in my job as a judge. And in the process of competing, someone spoke to me, and I don't know to this day who that person was, but the crowd was congratulating me for winning at the regional level, and someone in shaking my hand said, the way she said it is, do you know that people will pay hundreds of dollars to hear someone like you speak? Now, I wasn't concerned about the hundreds of dollars. I was concerned with the fact that they wanted to hear someone like me speak. And so I thought, well, this I can add to what I do in my mission to contribute to the world. I was already, as I said, working as a judge. I was raising my children, and here's another opportunity. I can offer motivational, inspirational presentations for others. And as Willie pointed out, then the World Championship simply expands your sphere of influence. And that's what I found it to be. The one other important thing that I think is a wonderful aspect of it is that once you are bold enough to declare that you are a world champion of public speaking, the world now holds you to a higher standard in terms of your skills. And so I have to be very careful not to let down my standards in how I present, because I'm world champion and that's what they expect.
Thank you. That's tough though, right? So now you can no longer be human. You have to be perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Such wonderful answers. I was just sent a question, and this one is for me. So this one is by Ali Shahbaz from Region 11. And the question is addressed to Sarah Khan. When will we see you in the finals? Well, this is a very, very simple question. It's just I have a one-liner answer. When the judges would like to see me in the finals. Moving on to the next one. Let's see. I'm getting so many questions. This is a good one. Okay, it's to all three of you guys and whoever would like to answer. How many mentors did you have that led up to World Championship of Public Speaking? So whoever would like to answer, how many mentors did you guys have?
This is Dana. I'll start. Okay. It depends on how you want to define mentor. There were people who advised me, but I did not have specifically what people are looking for today as a coach, someone to look at my speeches and review them and watch me perform and give me input. I didn't have that other than the local Toastmasters clubs that would allow me to practice at their meetings. In terms of actual preparation, in terms of encouraging me to move forward, I had one person who was a mentor. She's no longer with us on this planet, but she's the one that encouraged me after I came in second place to Dave in 1991. She's the one that encouraged me to compete again the following year. I was perfectly content with second place. Second place was fine for me. And, but she encouraged me to go for it again. And so I did compete in 92 as well. And that's when I won the World Championship. But so I would point to her as a mentor, but otherwise there was no specific person. It was just members of the local Toastmasters who assisted me in giving me input.
Excellent, thank you.
I'd have to say that my mentors were legion. As I mentioned, I went to Toastmasters when I was in high school in the fall of 1971. And I was on my high school speech and debate team. So I have my high school coaches. When I went to the Air Force Academy, my coach on my speech and debate team there, with whom I'm still in contact, was another mentor, and he encouraged us, many of us, to look into Toastmasters once we graduated, which is what I did. But when I got to District 16 here in Oklahoma, these people were so overly generous and kind and helpful. They were the ones who made it possible. And I'll give you an example. There was a husband and wife team who at the time, one was the district governor and another, her husband was a past district governor. I was in a speech contest against their son. I won that contest. And the three of them became my biggest help, supporters, and mentors even to this day. So I had support like that. Oh, and here's an ironic twist. One of my personal coaches was a woman by the name of Dana Lamont, not Dana Lamont, Dana Lamont. That's true. She would schedule stuff for me to go to other clubs. She'd encourage me to get feedback. She did not rest. And I'm so glad I won, because I'm sure if I hadn't have won that time, she'd have me on the road until I did. So I had a lot of support and mentors, and I am eternally grateful for every one of them.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, yes.
So my approach was different.
Okay.
When I was in a contest in '83 and Roy Fenstermacher won that contest that year, as I was sitting there that day, and when he started speaking, the hair on the back of my neck at some point stood up. And he changed the energy in that room, and I had no idea how he did that. I didn't even know that he did it. I just knew that something electric was happening in that room. And when that speech was over, I said to myself, I need to figure that out, because whatever he did to create that type of energy in this room is why he won this contest. So for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I actually started working on nonverbal behavior. And I started working on vocal variety. I actually went to that CC manual and started on those speeches. And I would not tell anyone what it was that I was working on, even my evaluator. I never alerted them to watch out for my gestures. What I wanted is I wanted them to naturally say to me, your gestures were really great today. That told me that I was getting to where I wanted to go. So I worked on vocal variety, I worked on gestures, I worked on all of the things that are in those CC manuals. And so once I mastered it in about 95, 96, and I could get an audience to behave any way I wanted them to, then I said to myself, I can win this contest. The other thing is, it occurred to me that I could not give the speech that I was going to give in the contest to an audience here in Hawaii, because it's a different audience. And so therefore, I never practiced a speech in front of anybody. And the reason I didn't do that, I practiced it at home, I practiced it in my head, but I didn't practice it in front of anyone because I didn't want them to start changing what I was doing. I see the red light, so I better stop. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So now we are done with the Q&A portion of the section. And I just got a message from the district director. Sarah, will you please summarize what they said in the whole session to have crisp, short ideas to absorb? Brother Samir, if I would be able to summarize the entire 2 hours for you guys, you think I wouldn't be the world champion of public speaking? There's so much passion. How would I summarize the entire session? But perhaps give me a week and I'll be able to do it and send it to you. So now to wrap it up, I want to thank all of the 3 wonderful speakers who inspired us today by sharing their knowledge and their wisdom. And lastly, before I give the program to our delightful MC Farheen, I just want to leave you guys with something. You know, when we inspire others, we help them turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And we are all ambassadors of goodwill with the power to make this world a better place. So now over to you, MC Farheen.
Thank you so much. Thank you, distinguished speakers Dave Ross, Daneil, LaMon, and Willie Jones, for lighting up this evening with your profound thoughts and impeccable words. I certainly learned a whole lot tonight, and I'm sure the audience is going to have to take away a whole big bag of goodies to reflect on and use in their own lives outside of Toastmasters. Thank you, Sarah, for being a wonderful host and helping us learn from these speakers through your well-crafted and thought-provoking questions. This was a great session. May I now acknowledge the presence of the CEO of Toastmasters International, DTM Dan Rex. With a round of applause, let's welcome DTM Dan to share with us a few words.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today and to have enjoyed this experience and hearing from my three friends, Dave and Dana and Willie. It's been a while and I have been enriched and edified. Sarah, fabulous job as the host today. Thank you for the invitation. I will give you my word of the day report. You said wow a minimum of 27 times. I stopped counting after that. Well done, well done. These are indeed unusual times, and the Toastmasters organization, members around the world, clubs, leaders at the club and district level and everywhere else have amazed me as we have gone through this unusual pandemic that has changed all of our lives in ways that I don't know that they'll ever return to their previous state. As an organization, we have both suffered and done well. We've rebounded after a bit of a freeze in March and April. Now nearly 10,000 clubs are holding their meetings online, and we look forward to many successful clubs, many successful years as an organization. The innovation has been outstanding. And thank you to each of you for being part of this. As I scrolled through the gallery, I saw names and faces that I recognized from all over the world, and of course, many that I am meeting for the first time today. Thank you all for participating in this event. Earlier this week, I was on a call with some peers and colleagues from Cambridge University, and we were talking about leadership in times of crisis. It was a fascinating discussion, and the professor who was leading the conversation talked to us about ourselves as leaders. And in Toastmasters, we're all leaders. We lead ourselves, we lead our club, we're leaders in our family, in our community, we're leaders at work, we're leaders everywhere. And the question that she said is, as leaders, are you providing psychological safety to your team members? I was a little put back by the question, because I hadn't thought about it in exactly those terms. But this crisis gives us as leaders the opportunity to provide the right space for our team members to excel. A phrase that she used is state leads to state. Leaders who are relaxed cause others to be relaxed. Leaders who extend trust have trust returned to them. Leaders who are caring receive care. Leaders who are kind receive kindness. And leaders who are clear receive clarity in return. That's my challenge to you today as a leader as we go through this crisis. Be a leader who provides psychological safety. You know, as leaders, we are remembered less for what we accomplish and more for who we are. Let's be leaders who it can be said that people are proud of who we are. Madam MC.
Thank you very much, DTM Dan, for those powerful, encouraging words. We're all looking forward to going back to a normal world again, and we hope the world is going to be normal soon. I would like to thank the organizing team of this event for giving me this opportunity, and thank you, dear audience, for joining us and witnessing another spectacular star-studded event. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed putting it together for you. Stay safe, stay well, and see you again at another event soon. Toastmaster Rafiq, the stage is now yours.
Since the word of the day happens to be wow, let me start by saying this, wow. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Farheen. Well, before I even get into talking about the event itself, I just wanted to acknowledge that there is someone among us here today who is really important, without whom this event would be useless. In fact, bringing all these great speakers and leaders would be of no use. And I wanted to acknowledge that one person. And that one person is you. Each and every one of you that has come here in attendance to witness and benefit from this fountain of wisdom that has been unleashed upon us, thanks to the generosity of Toastmaster Sarah Khan, who loved to connect with us, who gave us the opportunity, and as I started off saying, who gave the opportunity to Toastmasters or public speakers who are not as experienced, but probably rookies, I would say, like myself, to have this opportunity to bask in this wealth of wisdom. Thank you so much for that. And first and foremost, I think it is my responsibility to thank the team behind this event. And yes, definitely it's a brainchild coming from Toastmaster Sarah Khan. And to give this child a warm welcome, we had a team of contributors, starting with our Toastmaster District Director, Toastmaster Kamal, who welcomed us to have this opportunity to share with the members, because members is where it all begins. So thank you for that, District Director Toastmaster Samer. I have a team with me that had made this possible behind the scenes, pushing those buttons, spending those nights, weaving those words correctly in terms of making this event as much as professional as possible. I'd like to thank Toastmaster Farheen for coming forward and being the MC and taking our event to a completely different level to give us that stardom and that flamboyance that you bring. Thank you so much for that. We also had behind the scenes working with us our virtual systems manager, who's also the District 79 webinar manager, Toastmaster Muhammad Nooman, who is behind the promotional videos that you saw. Well, coming to that, I had something actually, and I wanted to stop myself, but I couldn't. I could find the speeches or the World Championship speech of Toastmaster Dave Ross, Toastmaster Willie, but Toastmaster Dana, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find your 1991 final speech, and I couldn't find your championship winning speech. Now, you really need to give us this, because I can't find it on YouTube. All right. Back in the days, we could order it online and a cassette would come from Toastmasters International. Right now, I really don't know where to find your speech. So you need to share us so we can benefit from that public World Championship or public speaking speech. So giving me that opportunity to have these World Champion speakers, Toastmaster Dana, I would like to add a couple of things I noted down. We're keeping our eyes, heart, and our mind open to learning from Toastmasters and our journey even outside Toastmasters. Toastmaster Dave, we're going to work upon, or rather, I would work upon when I go to the convention, to shake as many hands as possible. Definitely not during this pandemic, but when the pandemic is done, I'm going to make that new record again. I'm going to get back and tell you, I shook hands with 1,000, probably 500 Toastmasters of different nationalities and diversities. Toastmaster Willie, being authentic, so important, not just in Toastmasters, outside as individuals. I love the idea that being authentic is something that we need to drive every day home. We need to take with ourselves wherever we go. Thanks for that wealth of wisdom from all our 3 champion speakers. I would also like to place on record the contribution from our district PR manager, Toastmaster Jolly, who's been helping us with marketing this event on different platforms. Thank you so much for that. Also, our timer, who's been quiet in the background, giving us those bleepers, telling us that, hey, it's time. We gotta keep up with time. Toastmaster Narasimha Rao, thank you for keeping us on track in time, and I really appreciate that. I have also a few more people. I'm not done yet. I'd also like to thank some of the mentors, or rather, I would say, a mentor from our division, from our club, Dr. Sulaiman Al-Madi, who's been always guiding me for new Toastmasters or upcoming Toastmasters who are not yet up the curve in experience or wealth of wisdom like myself, for guiding us. Thank you, Dr. Sulaiman. And one more thing, our district has something called the weekly, or rather the daily leadership talk, where our district director, Toastmaster Samer, opens the event at 10 p.m. every day, Riyadh time. And we feature leaders from the Toastmasters International who can share with us, who can help us, guide us in leading our members to that direction where we want them to go. And this Monday, we have with us distinguished Toastmaster Matt Kinsey, the second Vice President. So those of you who want to come back into the action of leadership and gain your experience and gain your wisdom from this session, you need to look at 10 p.m. Riyadh time at our District Directors Facebook page, at District 79 Saudi Arabia's Facebook page. Thank you so much. And it's been a lovely experience having to be a part of this event. And I really hope, if not Toastmaster Sarah, or maybe Toastmaster Sarah's acquaintances will get back to us again and bring us together one more time. I love to see that attendance which peaked up, one of the highest attendees that we've had during this season after the pandemic actually came and took over from us. So thank you so much for that. Have a very good night. Those of you joining us early morning, good morning to you, late night. Have a very good night and safe sleep, and stay safe, stay home. And I hope to see you all one more time in District 79. Good night. Okay, here's the moment where you all need to turn on your videos. Our virtual systems manager, please allow our audiences to turn their video on so we can have a group picture, so we can frame this memory that we were there in the midst of 3 world champions, 2 great leaders, and the most important, you, the audience in the attendance today.
All right, one more time, smile. All right, and the next page. Okay. There
Sister
we
Sarah,
go.
maybe we should have this event for 4 hours because I'm still admitting people. There are still people joining.
Okay, wonderful. That was awesome. Yes.
Cool.
It was great to be in Saudi Arabia again.
That's Dave, right, Dave?
Yes.
Such a pleasure to have you, Dave. Thank you so much, Dave, Dana, and Willie. I'm getting so many messages from people, so many Toastmasters and non-Toastmasters people, how thoroughly they enjoyed the entire event and all of your profound answers to the questions. So thank you so much, guys.
Sarah, you are an amazing force of nature.
Oh, you're so sweet, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Really beneficial. Everybody's such a beneficial and pleasant meeting. Good night all. Bye. Everyone. But
we're getting a recipe for something, I think.
Yes, it was my Sakura. That's there.
You are a magician.
Whoever said Brother Rafiq is a magician, you're absolutely right, because I cannot see him at all. He just disappeared. Definitely is a magician.
I just would like to pass this compliment to both Tara and
I said Rafiq is a magician because Rafiq can gather these things, and you, Tara, are a bigger magician. You're a mesmerizing artist.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But I couldn't have done this without the help of Rafiq and Brother Ahmed and the team of the Action Committee, and Farheen and Joy and everybody. So it's a collective effort. I'm so happy that you're launching all of us.
Tara, excellent, very interesting.
Thank you so much, Shanaz. That's my family. My family is joined too. My dad.
Oh, I'm so happy. So proud of you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Shanaz. I'm so glad you joined.
Yeah, very enjoyable also.
Toastmasters Farheen, can you let our attendees know which news channel you work for?
Absolutely. If I did change my career, which a lot of people are asking me to, then I'll definitely let you know. For now, I'm still a business system analyst.
See you everyone, and I congratulate to District 79 Toastmasters Board for conducting such a wonderful event. It was really nice to have, and it was really nice to listen as well. And I have a strong connection with District 79. When I started the journey after I was choosing District 79, so the 79 figure is still in my heart and mind. You guys have done a wonderful job. Hands off to you.
Ahmed and I usually match at every time we any event, there's a convention or something. That you are not wearing a gold jacket today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very well conducted, very well hosted.
All credit goes to the entire team.